As a coach, you're in the influence business. That's what you're all about. To be successful, you must influence the minds, the hearts, and bodies of those that you're coaching. The story you tell your players is how it all begins. Great coaches are great storytellers. Through their stories, they mold, shape, modify the stories the players tell themselves, and the stories they tell everybody else on the team and their parents and the world, even the press. Our stories represent our version of reality and ultimately become our destiny. That's how we're wired as human beings. And here's the important thing that we discovered in all of our work over almost 3 decades. The private voice, the voice that no one hears, your inner voice, is the master storyteller. And that's what you're vying for when you're coaching them. You're trying to grab a hold of that. That's the seat of power in an athlete's life. They can tell you anything publicly. They'll tell you all the stuff you want to hear. But that's not how you change them in desired directions. It's somehow getting them to buy in and change the way their private voice is speaking to them. Coaching means, plain and simple, you rally the private voices of those you are reaching out to. You influence the way they speak to themselves and ultimately the way they are going to articulate so their public and private voices are completely aligned. And that's when great things start to happen. I will tell you, coaches have enormous power. You know, if I were to ask you, who are some of the most influential people in your lives? I've asked this to many coaches. It wouldn't surprise me and probably wouldn't surprise you when you'd listen to so many people in this audience would point to coaches that they had in their life, in some aspect of their life, that changed your trajectory. And in fact, many of you would probably say that's the reason you went into coaching, is you wanted to have that kind of influence in another person's life. And it probably has very little to do with whether you won the national championship or not, how many times you were MVP, or how many awards you won. That person had an effect on you that was deep inside your soul. So let's take a look at what a great story is comprised of. I mean, stories that move mountains have elements to them that are very specific. And the first element of a great story, qualifier, is that the story has to be true. It has to be grounded in reality. You can't make it up. Your players know if you're blowing smoke, you're spinning. You got to say it the way it really is because they long for people to tell them the truth. The second part of a great story is the way in which you build some kind of meaning around that reality, is that the story takes you where you want to go. And the epicenter of every great story is purpose. Getting the purpose right behind why you're demanding all this excellence, why you're giving so much of your heart and soul, and they are giving so much of their heart and soul. If we don't get the epicenter of the story right, we're going to have problems. So I'd love to know what's your story around coaching. You know, at last year's conference, I asked some very pointed questions, like, is winning or personal development of your players for real your primary focus? What's driving you? What's the scorecard you are using? And be honest as you possibly can for determining your sense of value, your self-worth, your self-esteem. Are you really in the character building business first and foremost? And it is not, it's not a surprise that people say, no, I've never taken that step. It's kind of, it's just out of the box for me. Where we're trying to build a pathway at this conference, and hopefully in all the materials that you'll be reading and the people you'll be following, that'll give you a sense that maybe there is something here that's very real. So At the Human and Performance Institute, which I founded many years ago, we've had like 250,000 people go through the Institute, and we track them religiously. We're very science-based. And we are in the business of helping people change their stories. The single most important, powerful way we've learned to get people to change their story is to write it out in longhand and to read it and write it several times. About every 2 weeks to rewrite it from memory. And what happens one day, you wake up and you realize your brain has intentionally been rewired. Here's the story I wrote several years ago, and it always starts with the truth. The truth is that the obsession to achieve extrinsic success in sport by coaches, parents, and kids, the obsession to win at all costs, is undermining the basic fabric of sport and threatens the well-being of legions of developing athletes. Burnout, overuse injuries, they may impact them for a lifetime. The truth is that the real value of competitive sport is in helping athletes become stronger human beings for life. More important than the chase to the top is who is the person becoming as a consequence of that chase. And most of the youth in sport will never make professional athletes, but we are professionalizing the chase. It's a tragic miscalculation. And the truth is that sport provides an incredible platform to accelerate the personal development, respect for others, focus, engagement, determination, teamwork, persistence, fairness, gratitude, emotional control, resiliency, positivity, all of which will be strengths that will carry them through the entirety of their life. And they'll always look back on sport and you as a special gift, a gift that helped them prepare for what they're going to face.